welcome everybody today. First off, congratulations to all the students who are finishing up one heck of a year. Yes. And a huge congratulations also to faculty and staff who have done their job plus another 2 or 3 on top of it over these last couple of years in bringing all of our students through. So, big time. And also I want to thank Dean Captain for seeing us all through these past couple of years. And the Dean's Future of Creativity Award this year, just a quick note, the entire university has something called ROCKS. It's our big research event. It's all departments, it's engineering, it's everybody. This year, one of the Future of Creativity Award winners, that was a CAM-based project, won the research award for the entire campus. So that's a pretty big deal to have that coming up. And that team, and it was a recording arts, but the team also had an engineer, a geographer, a computer scientist, and that's where I want us to kind of start today. So what I'd like you to do is to maybe let's start here with Robbie. Go down and introduce yourself, what your discipline was as you came out of CAM, and then I want you all to be thinking about this question. If your life since leaving CAM was a movie, what would be the title of that movie?
Kind of caught me off guard with that one. Well, let's start with the movie quote. I would say The Grind. It's the movie name. My name is Robbie. Full name is Robert Fikes IV. I study digital design. Graduated here in 2017. Had quite an adventure. Started doing freelance, worked in the new media arts field, web development. Now I'm working in the video game industry.
Nice. Hi everyone, my name is Samantha Weston. I graduated in 2016 and I was in the painting and drawing department. Also worked a lot for Brian. Now I do public art for Denver International Airport. And I guess my quote, struggle till you make it. That's okay.
Hi there, my name is Florence Blackwell, and I double major in art history and photography, and I graduated in 2021. Currently, I'm working at Whittier Cafe in the Five Points neighborhood, and I am also a curator at an arts agency. The title or a quote that I would say sums up my experience at CAM would be, I just saw a film called The Longest Walk last night, which was a documentary about Charles Burrell, the first man who got a permanent contract with the Denver Symphony. And yeah, so The Longest Walk would summarize my experience. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Cisneros, and I completed the BFA in illustration from the school in 2018, and I continued on to finish through the 3D graphics animation program with the DAC. And now I'm currently working at Pixar Animation Studios as a 3D dressing and modeling technical director. The movie thing really caught me off guard. I won't lie. I'm not good on the fly, but I guess I would have to say if I had to choose a movie, it would be Soul from Pixar. That's boring. But just because, it's always, the whole plot of the movie is about getting your dream and then having it and just trying to find contentment in, like, when you get the thing you wanted so much over a long period of time and just being able to enjoy that moment and then also find new dreams and have it branch out instead of just being like, well, we're at the end. It's like there's still more.
If your bosses from Pixar were here, I think they should give you a raise for raising brand awareness for Pixar.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Madalyn, Drewno, and I did a BFA in illustration in 2018.
After I graduated, I applied to the JET program, which is the Japanese Exchange Teaching Program, and I went to Japan to teach English for 2 years. So it's been a year now since I've been back here. Since then, I've been volunteering here at RedLine with their ArtCore mentoring series, and I've also got accepted into the Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore, so I will be doing a one-year grad program starting in August. Movie that first came to mind was Get Out, because I was very much ready to get out and start, beyond college. Thanks.
I haven't spoken to the mic in a long time, so this is pretty sweet. My name is Erik Pendergraft. I graduated in 2019 with a BFA in Transmedia Sculpture. Since then, I've started up my own art handling and creative business, and I work for the Arvada Center, and I also work at Contemporary Gallery, Visions West, and do like freelance art handling on the side, as well as maintaining a studio practice. I think the title of my movie would be Trust the Process, I think. It's just have faith in what you're doing at the moment, and it'll all kind of fall into place when it's ready. So, yeah.
We'll just kind of start coming back and just go and pass the mic back and forth. So in today's world, this kind of notion of the artist as the lone genius, working along in their studio, there's certainly moments when we're all by ourselves reflecting on our own practice, but most of the work today, I think, gets done in groups. Often, more increasingly, it gets done with people, especially like here in the movie or the gaming industry or something. You're talking to people who have had a totally different educational experience than you have in many cases. Maybe they're a planner for a city or computer engineering. And I'm wondering where's any opportunities for interdisciplinary work that you had at CAM or since CAM that have really helped you to understand how to relate to others who are coming out of a different practice, and how that process of creating that shared language and those shared goals with somebody who is coming at it from a different angle from you, how has that improved or increased or deepened your own practice in your own specific discipline you're coming at?
I don't know. I would say taking architecture. Actually, I took Design Studio 1 during my thesis semester, and I didn't know what I was getting into, and it was like kids were pulling all-nighters in the architecture studio and stuff, but it gave me like a practical language to relay to people that work with like fine dimensions and structurally how things are built and assembled, and like sort of this design language, and for like public art and just building things, which helped with my sculptural background as well, and kind of to link me up into this new field with people that have no idea about sort of art, but to relay language and be the interpreter, I guess, for my ideas and other people's as well, and to execute some big projects. So that took a lot of intimidation sort of out of the art process, and knowing that I can like jump into bigger projects and not be so scared of failing there. So yeah, I think that.
What comes to mind for me is just having lots of different experiences just in life with other people, especially in Japan, just working with people not only from a different culture, but also in a completely different setting with teaching, and I guess finding ways to bring my illustration and artistic background into the classroom.
as far as like making creative projects to teach English. I think a little bit before that, I worked with a Denver artist here named Sammy Lee on a dumpling project. And working with her, she kind of does a lot of sculptural work and also like very research-based. So for that project, I did a lot of research on like the history of dumplings and like the symbolism. So the way that has kind of deepened my practice is to kind of want to dig deeper into the topics I want to explore in my art.
For my experience, I've worked with a lot of people, and so being one of them going through the gauntlet of doing the DAC program, you begin to learn like who's stronger at certain things, who can't, like especially with our university, who's coming into this degree with a different education. Because when people have like different educations, they have different frames of mind, and that kind of gives people a tool set to solve a problem that you possibly don't have. So working closely with people in that sense, you get to kind of glean how they think and what works for them and maybe what works for you. And then that's when you kind of add to your own tool set of, wow, that was really smart, I like that approach, I think I can do it, but I can do it this way. So it's always about taking, like the things that you learn from others and implementing it in your own way. And yeah, just going with that approach and just like going beyond that, just getting into working out. Just talking with like the people that I work with, everybody has like different walks of life. Some people were in construction for 10 years before they decided they wanted to change their life. And, I know someone who went through the whole nursing program, went into the field, became a nurse, worked for a few years, and just decided they didn't want to be a nurse anymore. So just, learning from all those people and just different walks of life add to creativity, because you think like everybody thinks on a similar path as you. But when you talk to others, you start to realize that everybody's experience is really different and unique. So even if you end up in the same position or the same field, you had a completely different experience. Also working at the university was, I did illustration and I also did 3D. And I found that when I was in illustration, I was doing 3D to help out my illustration. And now that I'm in the art field doing 3D, illustration has really helped me in this field too.
I think for me, the most valuable thing I got from CU Denver was there being a range of students in my program, from age to occupations, family experiences. So I think listening to people's stories, I had to become a deep listener and an active listener. And I think in the beginning of my degree, it was sort of solitary, because I think, everyone's sort of coming at it on an uneven playing field. Like some people have more experience, some people have less experience. And, when you're in the classroom, you really become close to people. You see their work, you see them in the morning, you see what they look like, when they're struggling and they're still in class. And, those things really, really impress upon you, or at least upon me. And I think that if I had gone to a college that was solely for arts, in a school that was sort of in a college town, I think going to a commuter campus, like the Erik campus, you see everything. Class, race, body type. And you don't know what people's stories are. And that's really the deep part of it, because everyone's in their own experience. And I think that's like the most meaningful piece of being a part of this community, is that I can take with me the stories that I was trusted with, and be able to be a guardian of people's stories as I go on through my life. And I think that listening has made me a better
follow-up question on that, because I love what you were saying there about story and trust. I've always felt like when in my own arts education that the critique process was such an incredibly valuable process as a human being. And I wonder, can you talk a little bit about how the critique process, as part of the curriculum and part of the learning, kind of helped you to kind of understand stories and build trust with your people you run the school with?
Yeah. For me, I thought that I knew what I liked to make. So sort of like expressing myself in front of people that I didn't know, and to be honest, I didn't really think people would care. Like, it's a commuter school, people have jobs. Just, you know, it was rough for a bit, but I think with the critique process, it improved my thinking because I was able to take a step back from my work and consider, okay, well, this person is going through the same thing that I am. We're trying to, pursue things that can be great. And I think, yeah, just that like synergy of like conflict and really like understanding where the person is coming from. I think that really allows you to think about all ways that you can improve your thinking. And I think at the end of the day, like, art is a practice. I think that's what Cam instilled in me. So the critique is like, how can we evolve from the conversations rather than these conversations and just like find out.
I think that as a nation we could use more of that these days.
I, for one, really miss critique. And I feel like we had a lot of really tough conversations during critique, and even not in the formal critique setting. My graduating class was really fortunate that there was about 10 of us that were really close. And we were always in the studio Saturdays or late on Wednesday night and really kind of pushing each other. And once you leave school, you, in a sense, lose that dialogue of somebody pushing you of, okay, well, what are you making next? Or here's how you can push this, or here is a different way you can come at it. And I think that's something that's so valuable in school, and you don't really realize if you don't have it anymore. And some of my most influential classes, I think, that I took at camp were probably installation work was the big first push. When I got there, I was like, I'm a painter, what am I going to make in this class? And it was fun because we were forced to do these group projects and really analyze what we could make. And, I came from the mindset of, anything I paint doesn't actually have to exist in real life. It doesn't have to actually stand up in a room or be structurally sound. So I think I grew a lot from that class and took it, and then took digital painting and realized, okay, what am I going to do with that? I can print these digital paintings and then I can paint in real life on top of them, or I can screen print, I can embroider into them. So I really learned a lot of camp, really being pushed outside of that, and I hope that's something that the faculty still does, just pushes students into uncomfortable classes. Because at the time it's uncomfortable, but I think you walk away from it being really happy. And now in my career, it's, I get the opportunity to work with engineers and architects and designers and artists, and it really does take a full team to actualize these amazing projects in real life. So I think it's translatable.
The creative confidence goes with you.
Yeah, I'm in a similar job type where I work with a lot of artists now, and a huge team of engineers and a growing team of designers, and just all these different disciplines. You don't really understand what's going on behind the scenes of different products and companies until you actually see a team that forms to build those things. So coming out of school, I really like the design program. It helped give this sense of structure, so that out of school I was able to have this baseline compared to if someone were to take those 6 months boot camps and try to apply for a job, they would kind of have trouble struggling to find things. And then in terms of like what you guys were talking about critiques, yeah, that after school you won't get people like pushing you. It's very competitive. Some people don't realize that. Like a lot of people I knew had like a really hard time just trying to find a job, their first job out of school. It does help if you have experience, but still, it's still very competitive. So just watch out for that. Make sure you're still working really hard. That's my advice for that. I forgot what your other questions or topics.
I think you covered some great ones, right? So let's talk about imagination. Creativity and imagination are often really scary words for a lot of people. And I'm just wondering, when we think about imagination, we think about memory and desire and how they kind of come together. And what the science says is that imagination is the precursor to all human knowledge. So the first time we looked up at the stars and we said, wonder what that's all about. Or we, with our friends, we put incense along. All those kind of begin as imagination. So I'm wondering, what is it about your education in camp that has helped you to understand how to lean into imagination in a way that helps you to find humanity in the workplace and with your teams? Because work is often transactional, but yet it's just a group of human beings trying to figure it all out together. And if you could talk a little bit about how you've learned those human skills, Cam, and how you're translating those into the workplace.
Yeah, just try to treat the people you work with as like your friends, right? Like, because you probably will spend most of your lives working with them than your own family, significant others, right? You spend at least 8 hours a day, and that's like a lot of time. So make sure you're at least on like neutral terms. You don't have to, like them, but for me, I do enjoy my coworkers. I'm very fortunate. And also in terms of like imagination, I've now recently been in a position to be creatively expressive rather than just spoon-fed like here try to make this. Have more creative freedom, but that just kind of comes up with just doing exceptional work and people trusting you, and then you're free to like take the reins and do your own thing.
I think I have a really wonderful position where I can help practicing artists realize their ambitions or their artwork.
Can you share with everyone what you do?
Yeah. So I administer the public art program through the city of Denver, but specifically for Denver International Airport. So kind of like an extension of arts and venues. So anytime we have a large-scale construction project and it's public-facing, it's over $1 million, 1% of the project goes towards the inclusion of public art. So with that, I help assemble community-based selection panels. We put out a call to artists asking them to create something site-specific, and then we go through a long process of interviews and proposals to select a concept and then to actualize it into the building. So most of my projects have a time span of 2 to 5 years, depending on the scale of the work and how long it takes to fabricate. And if you've never done contracting with the government, that can take about a year just to execute. So, I get to work with a lot of artists, and that's really satisfying as somebody who, I may not be making a living off of practicing my own artwork, but to help somebody else do it is something that I find really fulfilling in my life. And I forgot what was the rest of the question.
Just about like how to use imagination and being fully human.
Yeah. To be creative in my own administrative job is really thinking creatively about programming and what we can do with the building and there's a lot of parameters with working in an airport. You have to, work with the FAA, the TSA, and security, so it's just really analyzing what we already have and what we could do with it, and then when somebody says, no, we can't do that, maybe really asking why and seeing if you actually can. So I think it's just being compassionate to those around you, and really, when you're graduating, most of the people that you are in school with will become crucial to your own career, I would say. So being close to those that you're with right now, and really keeping in touch will be beneficial.
I mean, I think coming from a high school experience where I had a traumatic experience with an art teacher, I stopped making art. I didn't think I was creative. And that is something that is inherent in all of us. So coming to CU Denver, in the College of Arts and Media, I've been so fortunate in the 4 years that I was there to have amazing teachers, not only in CAM, but in other schools, in the colleges. And you know, these are living examples of people that are doing what I hope to do. They're living what I am imagining. And so when you see people who, you know, are your teachers and they are sharing their stories with you, and you know, they have lived in many countries, or they took years off before grad school, or you know, just have had many different experiences, I think you sort of can release those preconceived ideas of like success, because I think success is when you can be authentic to yourself. And I think the intimacy of both of my programs, photography and art history, I got to know my colleagues for 4 years, and to see the progression of our works to our thesis times, it was so emotional to go through this experience with these people. And you know, as you were saying, you know, these people who started off as strangers and you know, were like, oh, I love them or whatever, like they become people who you're like, how do I do this? Where do I put this comma? Like, can you proofread this for me? Can you, and, you know, like that's really been great, because not only do I think CU Denver students care about their education, they work hard, and never did I ever see a student once not try their best. And I think with my experience coming into my identity as a trans woman throughout college has really allowed me to understand the idea of being marginal, but also feeling included and feeling held. And so the fact that I was held throughout all of my experiences through CAM, I really feel called that I can hold people up and also accountable. So, yes.
I feel like for my field, creativity is found in a different sort of way, because we're not like a fine artist where I want to make a painting and it can be whatever I want it to be in whatever style I want it to be. Our creativity is found in a collective. So we get the vision from the director, and from the director it comes through art, and from art it comes through our leads, and then it comes to us. So I would say it's creating a vision together, you know, so we get the overall vision, and the parts of it are divvied out to all of us, and then we all make a part, and we have to talk to each other. The communication's big, because we're trying to unify. It's going to be different from what anyone else would make too. So just trying to make it all match is like one of the biggest reasons to talk to and connect to people, because we have to find a harmony and cohesion to what we're trying to do. For us, creativity is found in the details, the things that are overlooked from, you know, people who are higher up, the things that are small, and like the details that add to life that you notice just from a fleeting second. You know, just if you're walking and you just see one thing, that is like where our details are found, because the people higher up can't think of every little thing. But when it comes down to us, we can find those holes that in the reality of the story, they're like, wouldn't it be cool if this was here? Or I remember when I was doing something similar and I saw this and I can put it right here. And maybe also recognize that. So I guess that's where I find creativity. It's just in learning from my colleagues, creating a vision that we can all get behind, that is the director's vision, but also it's more of a conversation, because sometimes what we create and what we think of is different from what the director pictured, and sometimes the director likes it more. So it's really about just art is a living thing that we all share together. So the more that we share it, the more that it changes, the better it becomes. So that's what I find creativity is.
I guess to reiterate your question from the beginning, it was about how my experience at CAM has kind of helped me bring humanity into the workplace. Is that okay? So I think with my experience at CAM, the professors have always really gone above and beyond to help me outside of even like classroom hours. I was definitely one of those students that would spend weekends at the studio, and they would be there to open it up for me, or help me, especially screen printing was very difficult. So I remember Melissa Furness helping me a lot, and Rian definitely taking her installation course was the biggest challenge I've ever had. So that was a big thing, and it was great to have her help. And then Professor Young and Becky really helped me and have continued to help me after graduating. So I think from those experiences, that has really helped me understand that everyone wants everyone to do their best, and everyone wants to help you get there, and to kind of share that with other people. I guess in a way, like pass it on to the other people that you work with, to really just help everyone succeed. And as cliche as it is, when I succeed, we all kind of succeed together.
Let's see. Well, I think I learned a lot from Maria and imagination and creativity, and from the fact that like she would help people reframe how they perceived their work a whole lot. And when they saw something failing, Rian would sort of nudge them in a direction and like kind of give them these options that they didn't see. She's really gifted at doing that, and just in so many ways. So I think like learning to creatively see what's in front of you and let go of your intentions a little bit. And that applies not only to artwork, but life choices as well. I think like living life creatively and what you're given. You leave here with a degree, but it doesn't necessarily mean you end up there. You may try it and may like meet some other people that have a different background and like push you in another area, or start something so independent and you become this little group, this little think tank that causes big change too, if that's something you're into. So I think thinking of life creatively and being able to like take your glasses off and put a different pair on and just see situations differently. And Maria was really good at like, you're right here, so I'm pointing out. At like, really challenging what you're looking at and how you approach life and making choices. You bring to the table certain experiences, and we all kind of get to a point where we need to begin to challenge them on our own and make our own answers. And usually they're not answers and they're not clear, they're just more questions. And so it just gets deeper, and I've always been looking for answers, and I'm just starting to realize that it's more about the questions that really matter. And so exchanging those experiences that you bring uniquely to a group of people that you work with, it's sort of this shared pool of knowledge, and you're pooling from each other. If I'm saying pool as a swimming pool, I just have to go here because my girlfriend is funny. Pool, yes. Pooling, as in a pool of people. So anyway, sorry. So as we all like contribute to this swimming pool of ideas and knowledge, we're actually like creating something new and making new connections, and that's how we push forward and make change and I don't know, just deliver that world that we imagine and creatively together bring it into a reality, or at least put it on a pathway towards conception, I guess. So I would think that creativity and imagination just run through not only art, but life and relationships as well.
So I loved all the different answers to this. We talked about creativity and imagination as a social process, as an individual process, and it is all of those things. And lately I've been thinking a lot about courage, because in the ambiguity that we're all living inside these days, it takes a lot of courage just to get up and keep going every day. And I think in the American context specifically, I tend to think of courage as, it's the hero or the shero out there doing their thing, but I don't think that's quite it. I think every artist knows that courage is the sum of all those little teeny tiny decisions you make along the way, and how they add up, and even when you don't feel like you're going down the right path, you just correct and you keep going. I think for me, that is something that the arts specifically teach us how to do differently than maybe what society does. And also along those lines, we live in a world that says your identity, who you are, if you want to succeed in the world, that's going to be something you're going to have to overcome. But I think that every artist knows when they step up to that blank page of their stories, that they're bringing to that lived experience. That's the stuff that you start with. It's not the thing you try to get past. That's the thing you try to reach back for and bring with you. So if you think about your artistic practice, and I want you to kind of imagine maybe the project, whatever it might have been in when you were at camp, that just didn't work out. Like, badly did not work out, because we all have those. And then think about the next project that you start after. How does that process of knowing how to move past those moments, where does that courage come from to start the next thing? And how do you think, how does the arts not only form that artistically, but maybe as a human being?
It's all meaningless. In a good way. A friend recently used that sort of stoic outlook on life of it's all meaningless, so just have fun and go on with it. But I remember so many things not working out in undergrad, and I think that's what it's all about, is kind of adjusting, pivoting, kind of just seeing what you did, and then maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but you gather some sort of clue into something you can apply to the next thing, and you're kind of curious, and then you're curious about where it's going to go, or what if I do this next time. And there's a lot of preciousness applied to projects in undergrad, you think it's the one thing that you're going to do, and it can be really slow and painful to get to that point. So I think I've learned that the sooner you make mistakes and fail and be really friendly with failing, you're just cool, got that out of the way. Let's move on to the next version of it, and you can refine as you go along, and you don't always have to have this sort of shadow looming over you of something that didn't work, because you're constantly sort of nipping away at it. And I think that's what Cam helped me figure out. Is that sort of process, and there's a real joy in that process of messing up and finding something that's cool out of it, and then applying it to the next thing, and all of a sudden you're building on these mistakes, and there's this history that goes into informing your newer work, and it becomes exciting because you don't even know where it's going to go or what it's going to look like, and you're kind of happy with that because it's never ending. So it kind of leads to a fulfilling, I guess, creative life. And that's the secret to life.
So thinking about where do I get the courage to continue after making a mistake. I think even now I'm still really afraid to make mistakes, but I do it anyway because what else can you do? You have to just keep going and keep trying, and I think making mistakes definitely helps, at least for myself, not take myself so seriously. That's something that I'm continuously working on. So making mistakes definitely not only humbles me, but also kind of brings me back down into the present moment of just this is what it is, and I'm going to let it be and take what I can learn from that mistake and just continue moving forward.
I guess that's a good question. Was for
No, I can hear you if you get closer.
is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
Sorry, thank you. So that's a good question, I guess, for life and for art, just because we're always need to find the courage to do the next thing. But for me, my art career kind of started off with failure. I went to the school to do the 3D program, and I failed out after the first class or the second class pretty early. So from there, I knew I wanted to do art, so I just jumped around programs. I did graphic design, I did creative writing. I just kept going because I knew I had to create. I guess that's just it, is that for me it doesn't feel like a courage thing, like I have to force myself or to do it. It's a compulsion. Creativity is a compulsion that you just go back to doing even after failure. You just have to get over the trauma of it, give yourself a second to breathe and gather yourself, and then you're like, okay, we're doing this again. It's just something you have to do. There's a lot of teachers here that I've had, and they can probably be like, I know what her worst project is. I know. But the truth is that I've turned in a lot of bad projects when I was learning. They're terrible, but it's that compulsion to keep going. So I think that's what this courage is. It's the successful artists are the ones who don't stop, no matter what. I guess that's it.
Courage. I think in an area where artists and art's sort of insecure, seemingly insignificant, I think artists can carry a lot of insecurities. I'm sure even, our professors and deans can even speak to this today. But I think with all the insecurity, for me, the security is that I love art history, and this is what I want to do. And no matter where I am in my life, I'm gonna get there. If I'm taking a break, it doesn't have to be this linear trajectory, and that's what I've been leaning into in my own experience. For me, I totally had plans that I was going to go into a master's program and then get a PhD, and that's just not how life happened for me. It's not, and life happens, and you sort of have to go with where life takes you, And so being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and then, reflecting, and then you do, you know, I sort of don't like the duality of good, bad, but life is a practice, and so when we make mistakes, I think, in my experience, taking ownership of those mistakes and listening to how I could have improved, and then taking all of that, because I know that when I am offered criticism, that's coming from love and care. And I think I can differentiate between loving criticism versus someone trying to be just plain nasty. So yeah, I think just being secure in like, this is what you want to do, whatever that may be.
Let's see, my worst project. I had quite a few bad paintings. I think my hardest painting was in Melissa's theory class, where we had to work on one painting the entire semester, and I basically killed it. I just painted it to death. And I remember being so upset about it and really disappointed that I think I killed the painting. And I just remember Melissa was like, no, this was exactly the point. Now you will know before you kill something. And it was a really good learning curve. And I remember at the end she told me to cut it up and rearrange it and look at it again. And it was a really valuable teaching point. And what's great about painting specifically is there's always another canvas or piece of paper just to start over with tomorrow. And I think what's courageous about it is in that moment I think you could feel like you're the only one that's failing, but really if you look around I think everybody's having the same feeling as you. And something that I've taken away from that is to have the courage to ask for help from others or mentorship from others. You know, if I see somebody who's an excellent public speaker, now I'm confident enough to ask them to help me with that skill or to help me with critical writing. And I think before that's something that I was maybe too insecure to admit at that moment. And I think that's helped me.
In terms of failing miserably on past projects, I never really had any of that experience. Fortunately, yes. I think that's due to my work ethic. I will say there have been projects where it didn't quite turn out the way I wanted it to. Some reasons is maybe it's because like whoever was creating the project had different tastes than me, or it could be the big one is the big one I noticed was like just your group members or teammates, right? They sometimes kind of like you have to pull their weight, right? That kind of sucks sometimes too. And then in terms of like finding courage in moments of failure, for me, it kind of helps that to understand that that's kind of part of the process. And to make that more easier is to set goals for yourself. And like you mentioned, how like life throws all these different curveballs, right? And sometimes your goals doesn't work out. It's always good to like at least try to figure out where you are and then try to figure out, okay, well, let's do a different goal and try to achieve that task. I think that really helped out for me.
Okay, so here's the last question. A friend of mine, she's a poet, and when she conducts poetry workshops, she always says to the poets, there's one question that she gives them as a writing prompt. So I'm going to give that to you for your last question. The question is, what would you say? And then what she goes on to explain to that is like when one friend of hers talks about how her daughter's put her head on her shoulder and it was the last time, and then the next time she wasn't a little girl anymore. She was a woman. She was something more than that last moment, but she didn't know it at the time, right? And then there was another friend she talks about. You remember those beehive hairdos that 50s school teachers used to have on top of their heads? And another friend of hers, he says like, every time I saw a lady like that when I was growing up in school, they were always really kind to me, and I wish I had really appreciated the kindness of the beehive. When you think back on camp, now you're out in the world doing something different now than you were doing at camp. Is there anything think back of a camp that you didn't know it was happening in the moment it happened. And you really wish you had kind of known because it was a precious thing that you carry with you now.
Seems like this is more of a question of like, what regrets do you have? For me, I felt like I kind of optimized the camp program. I mean, I tried to reach out to all the resources, made friends with like all the classmates, and I really went into the program just like trying really hard. And it worked out in the end. I guess what I missed though is those friendships along the way. Maybe because after you graduate, people do go on their different paths. Some people move out of state to other countries. It's just hard to keep in contact because now they have their own lives and people go their separate ways.
I feel very similarly that something that I miss the most is the camaraderie of my fellow studio art kids. I think if I could go back though, the one regret I have is not exploring more what CAM had to offer, because I feel like I was on such a trajectory to take all the right classes at the exact semester so that I would graduate in exactly 4 years. And that was a really crucial goal of mine at the time. And I think going back, maybe slowing down a little bit and exploring a little bit more within my own creativity would have been even more beneficial today.
I was fortunate to study abroad in Italy with my photography professors, Bill and Carol, who I see in the back, hello. And that experience really shifted the trajectory of my life. Not only did I explore what being an experimental photographer meant, I was exploring my identity, and I think just having that cohort of 15 students who were, all new in this foreign country, in this big city with so much history that you could feel, and to take those memories and to feel excited, like those are the things that I wish I could save, because as you're saying, like we do go our separate ways, and life happens, and so I think keeping in contact with professors and colleagues is so critical, because these are the people who know what you've been through, and I think it's all the more important to carry these folks with you on your journey, because it's just special. This is a unique experience going to see Denver. And I didn't interpret the question like regret. I feel like my experience was truly worthwhile because it wasn't easy.
Yeah, that's a pretty tricky question. I feel like I got to see a lot of different sides of university just from my path of trying to do something, failing at it, and then going for a mad scramble and trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life. Am I going to be, am I going to be a graphic designer? Am I going to be a creative writer? Am I going to be an English major? And I feel like that period of my life I panicked and I was scared because I didn't know what I was going to do, and I wish if I could go back to that moment, I would have trusted the process of like how life works, that everything works out the way it was meant to. If you just don't panic. And I probably would have like absorbed more and just been more explorative if I took that time and thought of it that way instead of panicking about it. And so, because I met a lot of really interesting people during that time, and I could have learned more about them, but I think to go along with like what is previously mentioned, like this school is a community and your classmates are amazing resources and just amazing people to keep around you. So I think if I could do things over what I could do again, it would be to calm down. Things aren't going to work out exactly as you plan it. So enjoy it while you're there and make sure you keep the people along the way, because we think that what will bring us happiness is the destination, but to be cliche, it is the journey. It's these moments now that are the things that we should bring with us.
Yeah, to just kind of repeat the same sentiment, I also feel like during my time at undergrad, I was like very focused on getting each assignment done and getting it done perfectly. And so I think what I didn't realize what was happening during my time in undergrad is that this is a time to really kind of play and explore and also start to build connections with the people you're learning with. And that is something I'm going to try again in grad school.
I would have to agree with the professors and the community. You know, I really enjoyed connecting with the professors and being able to communicate with them and talk processes and about their own work and helping them and then, well, not Maria, you can touch it. But helping out and gaining sort of like that insight of like, oh, they're not these untouchable people, and like they're normal individuals that I can certainly aspire to be like and have a relationship with and to help with my work and go to when I need to get critiqued outside of school, because that structure is hard to come by. But also like, yeah, I would say the structure was really something that I missed when I left school, because you're just like left wide open. Like, I don't have to go to the studio. I can do so many things. So, yeah, that kind of structure I would save, for sure. I'm working to get it back.
Well, graduates, families, however you may define that, friends, I hope that over these next 24 hours you will save these final moments here, enjoying and celebrating with the amazing, courageous imagination that is graduating with CAM over these last few days. Faculty, staff, you all are inspiring, beyond belief, incredible, and I've just witnessed the future here, and it makes me feel a little bit better. I hope it does you all to know that this is what the future is. So thank you all for being here with us and sharing your courage.